Hello everybody, welcome back to part 2. This is going to be looking at the spring and very early summer, and it's one of my most favourite times of the year. The spring with all of the seed sowing and the planting and all the hope that goes into that. And then as we move into summer, the warmth, the sunshine, the longer days. It really is a beautiful time of year. Enjoy. I think the birds are happy that it stopped raining. When I come to plant them, I always like to dib a hole for them. The bottom side, the underside, this is where all the roots are going to come from. The last thing I want to do is just sort of like really hard ram this into the soil, shove it in and possibly damage that area or ram it into a stone. So I do like to dib a hole and then pretty much bury them. They're about... the very tip is about just a few millimetres below the surface of the soil. 2 reasons. One, hopefully to stop birds plucking them out. And 2, so they don't throw themselves out. It's one of those other lovely, quiet spring jobs to get on with. Apart from the occasional aeroplane, it's just all about the birds today. And so on until they're all planted. Happy days. Ideally, I'd use a draw hoe, but I don't have one. The side of the rake will do instead. How wonky is that? And then, to hopefully give them a better start this year, I'm just going to fill these rows in with stone, with a bit of compost, just so they've got something to get their teeny tininess into. I'm going to sow really thinly anyway to save me thinning out later on, and by thinning possibly attracting the carrot fly, but also because there don't seem to be a huge amount of seeds in this packet this year. I normally feel like with carrots there's hundreds of seeds, but seems a little bit empty this year. Doesn't do quite the whole length, but well, let's see how it goes. Tide's high today, I can hear the seagulls. It's like Groundhog Day for the autumn. It doesn't seem like, it seems like yesterday that I was doing this for leaves. But, what a great resource. I think most of you who are gardeners and aiming for self-sufficiency, etc., will be just like me, that you're always keeping your eye out for a material stuff that will be useful for the garden. And whoopla, although it takes a little bit of effort, it's going to be really, really useful. Imagine if we have another summer like the last one, with that drought that went on for, I think it was 14 weeks in the end. So literally anything, any material I can get to put on the soil to retain some of the moisture, the better. And of course, you know, gradually as it breaks down, it'll go into the soil and hopefully in future make it a bit better at retaining moisture. Actually, that's not too bad. You know, I think I'm going to have to scrape this lot off. Yeah, let's have this lot off. I'll put it in the brown bin and then over the course of the summer just keep adding it into my brown and greens bin. But, oh, I've disturbed a worm already. Let's have a little look. Fork goes in nice and easily. Look at that, that's beautiful. It's moist, it's friable. It's not going to be like that near the edges, I don't think. Let's have a look. Wow. Oh, I don't want to jinx myself and think all the beds are going to be like this, because that's never the case. But can you get a sense of that through the camera, I wonder? I'll just show you another one. It's really moist. It's moist. It's crumbly. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Well, my late spring dig has never been like this before. Like I say, once I get over there near the edge, it's not going to be as easy. How is it here? Because this is where it was a bit more exposed, where the cardboard. Oh my goodness, look at that. What was in here last year? Oh, tomatoes. Yeah, I don't normally dig to a fine tilt for tomatoes, so wowzers. Wowzers, wowzers, wowzers. Oh my goodness, I'm delighted. I'm trying not to be too excited though, just in case this is a fluke. But I've got to say, as an experiment with the cardboard, with compost, with leaves, I'm utterly delighted with this. I've never had soil this workable with the first forking in spring. Can you see it, I wonder? Let me show you. Oh, beautiful. Don't drop any. Right. That's just the beginning of the bed. Let's crack on. The first things I'm going to sow today, in this kind of weird squinty light, are my flint corns. Yay! So, I've got a little bank baggie here of my own saved seed. Let me show you more closely because they are so beautiful. Look at the colours. Aren't they gorgeous? I don't want to tip them down too much and lose them. So obviously this is seed saved from the corns last year. That's fabulous. But I also had sent to me, a little packet of glass gem, which is what these are. It's glass gem, it's a flint corn, by Lisa. Thank you so much, Lisa. If you're not familiar with flint corn, it's very, very similar to sweet corn. Grows in pretty much an identical way. However, it isn't sweet, and it's not for eating, as you would say with sweet corn, where you nosh it straight off the cob, a little bit of butter or whatever. It's specifically for drying, for storage, and then you can use it one of two ways. Either as a popping corn, which I do, so it's a really nice little snack in the winter when there's so little else growing, or you know, a lot of the stored stuff, if you can't be bothered cooking, I grab a handful of the little beautiful glass gems, chuck them in a pan with some oil, boop, 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 got my popcorn. But the other thing, one of the main things I use it for is I grind it down to give myself a sort of flour, and it's great for things like if you're making any type of little, say, bean burgers or patties of any description, as a really nice coating for those, much as you would say with, say, something like breadcrumbs, but it's beautiful, gives a lovely crunchy coating. I'm going to have a double row of the sticks, the supports, but before I put this second row in, I'm going to be planting these in the space. So they're going to go in little clumps, whoopla, like this, all the way along, and then because these poles are coming slightly this way, they'll soon meet them and grab on. There should be enough. I should have made the right sort of space. Fingers crossed. Yes, perfect. And then, as you can see from here, I've got the second row of canes in already. And now I'm just going to sprinkle them in. So I've made a drill about 4 or 5 centimetres deep. And then I'm just going to sprinkle them in. Nothing too, not really worried about spacing. I always used to do it with a dibber, one at a time, very carefully spaced, but it's really not necessary. They'll quite happily, a few of them will quite happily grow in a tiddly-piddly space. And pull that soil back over. Now, also, because this soil's beautifully moist at the moment, but I will give them a little sprinkling of water, but also because I don't want it all drying out too much. I've got this big bowl full of, this is all clippings when I did the edges of all my paths the other day. So I'm going to get clumps of that in long. I'm going to give this peas a little bit of space to come up, but essentially get all this well mulched with these clippings. Amongst the clippings there are some bits of leaves, dandelion leaves, what have you. The more the merrier. So I will do that for the rest of the row up until that point, and that's where the soup peas are going to go. Then once I've got these planted, I'll put the rest of the sticks in, and in front of them, that's where I'll do the Kelvedon Wonder. And then I've got something else to go in this bed. So I better shut up and get planting, hadn't I? Well, this is a good and pleasing job to get done today. That should really help with the moisture retention. But of course, the law of sod means I've run out of material. But not to worry, because when I exposed the pea bed, there were still a load of leaves that hadn't decomposed. There's about a bin bag's worth full. So what I'll do is I'll charge up my strimmer battery, get those leaves strimmed down really tiny, and they can go onto the end of here. These are the reds, as I was saying, and then hopefully there'll be enough to make a start to do the same treatment for the whites over here. It wasn't a huge amount of rain, so there are still some pretty dry clumps. My goodness, yeah. Oh, it's hardly done a thing. But let's give it a go anyway. Let's see how we can manage. Just try and chip a little bit off. Yeah. This will start to do the trick. It's like a bit of archaeology for potatoes. I have to say though that even though it's just been a tiny bit of rain, everything suddenly looks so green this morning. It's gorgeous. One there. One there. I'm sort of basing them on a tripod. That might need to be a bit wider apart. Yeah, that should do it. So, a little hole. Oh, blah. Oh, the soil's still really good and moist down here from where it's been covered all winter, and then obviously after I prepped it I got it covered again straight away. Right then, big poles. On days like today I'm grateful that I'm tall. No, I need to go in a bit deeper. Oh, I can feel moisture in the air. Oh my goodness, how far am I going to get today? Kick that back in. Oh, it's starting to rain, guys. No! This job would most certainly be easier with 2 pairs of hands. Oh, I'm going to have to put you guys away. I'm going to have to I'm going to flop over. I have to put you away because it's going to start tipping down. Hopefully the rain will hold off a little bit now. Like I said, it's not the easiest job to do with 1 pair of hands anyway, but in the rain. So what I'm doing with all of the structures is 3 main poles, if you like, forming their little wigwam. Or it might be easier for me to show you on this one. Can you see that from here? Yeah. So I've got my 3 main poles in, and then what I do with still quite sturdy branches, but smaller ones, I then sort of brace them acrossways. So then basically all 3 poles then end up braced together. Then I'll come back in a zigzag in the opposite direction. It's just making it stronger and stronger, but also it's giving the squash something to climb up, and then when I do get fruits they can rest on these. So yeah, crack on. One of the problems I had last year making the arches was I put all the beam poles into the ground first and then tried to attach all the arches, and of course doing it single-handedly I was sort of fighting for a hand to hold the arch, a hand to hold the pole, a hand to hold the string. It was really tricky, and I think that possibly added to the weakness of the structure, that I couldn't really tie them tightly. So I thought, well, this year if I make them on the floor and then lift them and pop them into place, that should make the job easier. Here's hoping. Oh, I've forgotten which way I'm going. That one's that way. So you can see 2 lovely beds here ready, these 3 beds here ready, all in the back end of the P, those 4 beds there, everything is ready to go, and the structures are up. Yippee! Right, should we start doing some seeding? This really is the perfect kind of day for sowing. Yes, we've got a little bit of wind, little breezes, but it's warm, the soil is beautifully warm, so I gave all these little sowing areas a good soaking about a couple of hours or so ago. I don't know if you can see from there, but the soil is beautiful at the moment. And if you remember, over the winter I had trenches at the ends of each of these beds, which I filled with all sorts of garden rubbish, weeds, cardboard, cabbage leaves, all sorts, grass clippings. Then I gave all of that a really good soak before I filled it back in. So hopefully the idea with all of that organic matter down there is that it will hold moisture better as we go through the summer, because the beans really struggled last year with the drought. Seed quantities this year are in some cases really precious. The reason I'm telling you this is because normally I would plant 2 beans per pole. Eventually I'm going to have 2 plants per pole, 48 poles, 96 plants. So I'd normally plant 2 per pole plus 1 as a backup in the cold frame or on the deck. I don't have enough gigantes to do that, so this year it's going to be 1 in the hole, 1 in the cold frame. So I'm just going to tuck them down, only a couple of inches or so. You know, they're quite a big bean, so they do need to go down there a little bit. Fingers crossed. Fingers firmly crossed. Oh, that's a bit of a lump there. My lovely little fence that I want to cover. Last year I tried growing both loofah and chocha on it. I raised seed at home and they were doing really well, brought them to the garden, hardened them off, put them out. The next day the slugs had them, the whole lot. So in a fit of pique and frustration, it was about the 2nd week of June, I literally, right down by the compost bin end, I shoved 1 chocha seed in, shoved it straight in the ground, thought, stuff it, let's see. And that single plant covered nearly the whole fence, pretty much to here, from all the way down there, from a direct sowing. Now the only thing is, they both, the chocha and the loofah, they need a really long season in order to fruit and for the fruits to mature. So that one last year, it didn't ever come to anything. However, it was beautiful. I really enjoyed it. The insects seem to enjoy it. He gave me a load of compost, so yeah, why not? Now, this year at home I have 4 achocha, 4 loofah growing very happily. They'll be coming to the garden in about a week or so to go into the cold frame to start hardening off. But I thought, do you know what? Why not sow some direct today and replicate what I did last year? But it's a bit early this year, so I'm going to get them sown, and then I'm going to use my the water bottles as a cloche again. Just plonk that there a minute. So I'm going to do some loofah in this one with the obelisk. I'm going to do some achocha here, and then back down there, tucked behind the Taunton Dean, I'm going to try some of both again, direct, and we'll just see what happens. Time to get on with pricking things out. Now normally I'd prick out this whole tray, but let me just show you a bit more closely. As you can see, hopefully you can see, some of them are only just germinated, whilst others could probably have been pricked out a couple of weeks ago. It's going to give me a bit of an issue because the trays where they're just germinating, I'm going to leave them, pop them back in the cold frame, and hopefully they'll come to something. The bigger ones that I'm going to now pot on, and they're going to probably sit in these little pots for pretty much most of the summer. I always have an issue of where to put them, but I'm going to replicate what I did last year, which is get them potted on, and then the sort of the trough that's now between my 2 mounds of new potatoes, the space in the bottom of there to put all these lovely little plants in these trays. I give them all a really good washing once I transplant them, just ease them in a bit. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these shade net tunnels over them all, because like I said, transplanting them and then leaving them out in this baking sun, just all be too much of a shock for them. Hey Poppy, don't walk on me carrots, get off me carrots, Poppy, come on. I love you very much, Poppy, but my carrots don't. These second sowings have come up great. Hurrah! Of course, it means I don't have a clue which variety is in which. Oh, there's George sloping past. Hey, George. Oh no, he's scared. Yeah. I can't remember what I sowed in here as my second ones. Having mentioned my slight muddle about my carrots because of the resowing, it's reminded me I need to get on with my plant labels. So, I'm going to do one for the Coco Sophie, because that's new to me this year. So over the years, I have tried all sorts of labels. I have tried big sticks, small sticks, sticks hanging from sticks, absolutely all sorts. But every year the foxes have their lot out, they chew them, they scatter them. Now you see, I say that, but having seen both Poppy and then later Rosie in my net tunnel, I'm thinking, have I been blaming the foxes for everything when maybe it's a combination of fox and kitty? Anyway, the point is, whatever I'd used in the past used to get pulled out, trashed, chewed somewhere else. So I ended up with, I never had labels for anything. Now, generally I've got a pretty good idea of what I've sown where, but especially if I'm trying something new, it can be a bit irksome losing your labels. So I now do my labels on my rocks, on pebbles. So I tried it for the first time last year and it worked a treat. Not a single plant label went missing or moved. I'm highly aware that I now may seem like I've gone completely as the foxes and cats just run riot through all my beds. Oh, dusty, dusty. As they run riot through the beds, they're taking out the leaves that I've got on for mulch, scattering the soil. So I just thought, you know what, the easiest way to get it back onto the beds where I want it is with a broom. So why not? Oh, I don't think I'm quite certifiable yet. So humid. Oh. Tiddly, pathetic looking specimen at the moment. I have this every year. Oh, another gust. The first time it worried me. I've got used to it now. It's not a worry. So the actual spacing is probably about 40 centimetres apart, which is really stingy, but I'm stingy. It works for me, so I'm not worried. So now this will be interesting. I haven't been into this soil now for 6 weeks. It's beautiful. It's crumbly, it's lovely. I'll give you a closer up look in a second. So I'm just getting quite a nice deep hole ready, because I am going to plant it deeper than the pot that it was in. I know a lot of you will know this, but for any of you this is your first year, we can do this with tomatoes, because if you look at the very sort of towards the bottom of the stem of your plant, you'll see lots of little teeny tiny fine white hairs sticking out. Once they're below the surface of this soil, they're actually going to become roots. They're going to go out and find nutrients and water. And of course, the more roots we've got on a plant, the better. They have more capacity for taking up water and nutrients. So brilliant. So what I'm going to do with this one is my bottom 2 leaves, I'm going to take them off. I'll put in the compost so I can get it nice and deep. Just into the very bottom of my hole, I'm going to mix in, oh, that's a rock. I'm going to mix in a little bit of Epsom salts. I do this each year. It's thought to help against blossom end rot, which is, well, most people think it's a calcium deficiency. It's not actually a deficiency. There is calcium in the plant, but the plant can't move it to where it needs it to, which is the fruit. Epsom salts are magnesium, calcium, but it's thought that the plant taking up this magnesium, it then helps the plant to transport the calcium around itself. The space is getting tight. Okay, finally, let's get some vertical squash in. So here I'm going to plant the Sucrine du Berry, and where should I put it? Where? I think I want it to go that way. So I've just given the surface a bit of a damping. I've given it sort of like 20 minutes or so to soak in. That's actually for the repeat lettuce sowing, not for the squash, because with the squash I will basically give them the water once they're in via their bottles. Have I got my bottles to hand too? Yes, everything to hand today, including opla. Definitely lacking in space. So exactly as I did with the horizontal ones, good dollop of compost that's got a bit of chicken manure in it. Where shall I put your bottle? Where to put it? So when I'm putting the bottles in, I'm trying to think about which angle I'm coming at to water them in the summer, and I think I'll probably be on the path here to do it. So I haven't got any sticks to hand, so I'm just gonna, oh no, I need to get it fairly deep because otherwise the foxes will have it out in no time. So bottle in. Ooh. This weather's been so weird because it has felt for days now like we're whipping up to a big storm, the skies suddenly go dark, and then nothing happens. Okay, let's get this little one in. These are a bit dry, but like I say, I'll give them all a really, really good soak once everything's in. I'll go around again. They look so tiddly at this stage, don't they? Let's get some string to it, partly to stop it flapping around in the breeze, exactly as I did with the horizontal ones, but also to introduce it to where it's going to be climbing. So with the string, I'm going to just, it's a bit awkward, this angle. I'm actually going to tie it to the post and then loop it around the squash so I can get it good and firm on the teepee, and then a bit more gently around the actual squash. Oh, I've used way too much string there. I'll trim that off and apply it to something else. This ground is like rock. So, that's just lifted a great big slab up. Now, ideally, I would have done this probably about 2 weeks ago. So over the years, what I found is I've been harvesting a week earlier each year to get to the point where I can harvest before the rot appears, and that's generally been the last week of May. Now, the other thing about getting these out today, if I can get them out, is this is going to open up the ground a little bit, so that hopefully all that rain that we're due can get in there and soften it a little bit, so that when I come to plant it with what's going in here, at this end I'm going to have the Hungarian pepper, that end the flint corn. So yeah, hopefully it'll just soften it enough for me to have a hope and tack of actually being able to plant. Small but perfectly formed. That's the hardest garlic harvest I've ever had. Not in terms of getting the vegetables to grow, but getting them out of the ground. My goodness. Honestly, that was horrid. That was really horrid. And it just kind of leaves me a bit worried about getting that bed planted up with the next bits, because I mean, I could barely get my fork in, as you could see. Getting the fork in and great slabs were coming up. And, you know, that bed, it's had loads of compost added in the last couple of years. It had that much. Never mind. Oh, it's just taking the wind out of my sails, you know. I was saying about do the worst job first. Well, I'm glad I've done that. It's done. It's out of the way. These are almost dry already because we've been so dry. But I'll now get them into the shed onto my onion drying rack. I'm going to have a sit down for 2 minutes and then do something a bit more fun. I'm going to do some planting in a minute. Bye, heck. Especially, oh my goodness, especially after getting the garlic out the other day. This has taken me ages. This has taken me probably the best part of an hour and a half to get it all harvested and all the other material chopped down. Let me give you a quick look at it because it's really beautiful, and I can't tell you how happy I am, because back in the autumn or coming into January, February, I had a couple of gaps in germination. And yeah, if you remember, I plugged them with the crimson broad bean, which had beautiful flowers. Oh, like myself, gonna like myself. Yeah, it had beautiful flowers, but it was all fur coat and no knickers. They didn't come to anything, so they're all out too. They just didn't produce any pods. But yeah, I was in the very early spring, late winter. I was a little bit concerned about where I'd got gaps in germination, but I sort of looked at the ones I'd got and I thought, yeah, that should be okay for a harvest. And you know what? Let me show you this lot. I mean, come on. That's a whole wheelbarrow full. Zero complaints for me. To give you an idea how deep the wheelbarrow is. Yes, that is how many broad beans I've got. I've no idea how many pounds. It's quite heavy. Now I've got to get them home to get them podded. I'm just going to tuck them away in the shade somewhere so they don't start wilting. And I'm going to take you back down the garden to show you the bed without and what I'm about to do next. I'm so happy. Just before I go and deliver the first barrow load of climbing beans to their positions, I thought I'd give you a quick show of the herb bed, because even though the sun's gone in, oh, it's looking so lovely. Look how the English lavender has exploded. Oh, I'm going to have masses to harvest this year. It's wonderful. And there are the lovely little chamomiles coming out. I'll probably harvest those in the next couple of days. There'll be more to come. And the French lavender, such a beautiful deep purple. I mean, it's so very, very different to the English lavender. The English lavender over there, all big and blousy and showy and loud. And then the beautiful, oh so chic French lavender, compact but absolutely gorgeous. And this is what I mean about getting a little bit of orange in the bed. I love the orange and purple together. Just tucked down there, that was the new chamomile this year, and tucked just there beyond the thyme, that's the bergamot. Not really doing anything yet, but give them a chance. And then the rest of the bed, oh my goodness, it's gone bonkers. Yay! So this is what I mean about suddenly I feel like there's all sorts of jobs to do. You can see the feverfew here, all over. I think it's had a bit of a hammering from wind and rain, but I need to get in there and stake it up, because it is flopping absolutely everywhere. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous, gorgeous, mini little clouds of white flowers. Oh, so beautiful. But you can see it's impinging on the sweet peas. Oh, another little pop of calendula. These were all the calendula I basically chucked on the soil and scratched in a bit. The sweet tansy down there, yeah, it's another reason for getting this feverfew tied up. How's the lovage doing over there? We can't even see it from here, but it's still there. But yeah, the feverfew is being gorgeous. The yellow, that yellow flower, that's the St. John's wort. I didn't intend to let it flower, but I think a combination of, we had so much heat early on and lack of rain, I think a lot of these herbs are telling me they got a bit stressed, so they're going for it now. So I think, yeah, once all my planting is done, I'll get in here, I'll put some stakes in, do a bit of trimming, do a bit of harvesting. But yes, what a happy little spot. Oh, and I need to top up the drink station, because despite all the rain, the sun we're now having is making all evaporate. They're all staked, they're all tied in, they all had their side shoots removed. So now I'm just going to start trimming back some of the foliage, especially towards the bottom. There's a couple of reasons for doing this. Actually, when I get to the bottom, I do tend to just completely remove the leaf. As I'm coming further up, maybe just half a leaf so it can still do its photosynthesizing. Two reasons for doing it. Well, it's all the same reason ultimately. It's all part of my kind of blight prevention cares. So with the lower leaves especially, what I don't want is, if we do get heavy rain and it's splashing back up onto those bottom leaves, I want to make sure that around each plant, as I was mentioning earlier, I want to make sure there's sort of good space for the air to circulate, so that if they do get showered with rain, then hopefully there's enough space around them for the air to move so that they can dry quickly. And with these bottom ones, what I don't want them actually sitting, touching the damp floor. I want them dry. Because there's one thing, well, there are two things blight loves: damp and warmth. So obviously we've got the warmth at the moment. Now, I don't think we're not expecting any rain anytime soon, but even just after I've watered them, as I'm watering them, that does splash them. And like I say, the leaves, particularly at the bottom, which are actually sat touching the soil, I don't want that. I will also do my aspirin spray. I don't think I'm going to have time to do it. I'm running out of time today. Oh, it's always the way, isn't it? Always battling the clock. Isn't that just a gorgeous sight? I don't think you ever quite get any idea on video of how tall they are. Let me come backwards without falling. But yeah, they're about, the tallest one is nearly 6 feet tall. Absolute beauties. The smell is astonishing. It's such a heady fragrance. The kind of fragrance that's going to put me to sleep. It's beautiful. Still loads more buds to come. Oh, it only flowers for a couple of weeks each year. But my goodness, isn't that worth it? And do you remember when I planted the helenium cutting from my mum, and I was saying it would be a really nice kind of fill in here until the lily comes? I don't know if you're going to be able to make out, but can you see? I've got some new little buds forming, as it were. Not flower buds, you know, just new growth. So, yay, it looks like that is transplanted okay. Brilliant. Oh, look, the first cosmos flower. So tiny. Oh, never mind. The others are finally picking up a bit. But yeah, I think that helenium will work really well to give me a nice splash of colour in this corner as I wait for this magnificence each year. Oh, they are ridiculously beautiful, aren't they? It never ceases to amaze me just how much things grow at this time of year. Oh, every year I sort of say to myself, remember this, Vivi, remember this for next year, when at the beginning of July you're worried about things and not getting going. And they do. So yeah, I'm just going to do a little bit more tying of the cucumbers. For the most part, they have found the frame and they're clinging on with their little tendrils. But in some cases, not quite. This one, can you see me? This one is growing into the lily. That's fine because I don't cut the lily stalks down. Oh, November it'll be. So, and I think some of this lot has gone sideways instead of up. So yeah, I'll have a little untangle of it. But it just goes to show, doesn't it? I think, whoop-la, standing in my trug. Barely, 6 weeks ago, I planted, these are my replacements, I planted plants which were 8 inches tall maybe, and look at them now. I'm 5'10", it's nearly up to the top of me, but actually where it's got that bit of slope, if it was going straight up it probably would be 5'10". So note to self for next year, don't panic at the beginning of July. I'm starting to feel like, is it Dr. Livingstone or is it Stanley? I can't remember which one of them got lost and had to be found. I think it was it Livingstone that got lost? Dr. Livingstone, I presume. Anyway, the point is, all my plans for today, hopefully I'll still get through some of them, but my goodness, there's so much tying in to do today. That, the rain, the heat, everything's gone bonkers. And do you know what's really, really lovely? Oh, it's been so lovely all morning. Various friends and neighbours have been down. Quite a few people have been away from the plots because they've had trips, what have you, holidays. Some folk like me have only been away a couple of days just because of the rain. But all around me on this site all morning, I've just been hearing these little squeals of delight as folk are moving back foliage and finding veggies forming. Most notably, people are finding their squash. I love it. It's one of the joys of growing squash, isn't it? All this foliage. And then in the autumn, as the foliage dies back, these beautiful treasures are revealed. But yeah, this is all taking me longer than this morning than I anticipated. There are some plants like the cream of the crop here. I'll show you in a sec. Oh, gorgeous fruit. I have to show you this. Where I thought I was buying a trading variety that I would train, but there hasn't been one clear sort of lead shoot, as it were. So some of it is going up, but the rest of it is just spreading. So yes, that's fine. It just means it's getting to be a bit of a jungle in here. It's so exciting, isn't it? Let me show you this beautiful one. It's yes, this is cream of the crop. Let me give you a look. I don't know if you get a sense of it properly on camera, just how sort of dense all this foliage has become. But this one here, this is the cream of the crop. And I'll show you. So for example, this one, yes, that is climbing. But then if we look here, I looked this morning and I thought, oh, sorry, that is a definite leader. Oh, maybe I can train it. But then, oh, it's really prickly, this one. But then as I go down, I mean, it's just such a mishmash of lots and lots of stalks. I mean, I might be able to bring this one up a bit, but to be honest, it seems to know what it wants to do, and I'm going to leave it to it. But this was the fruit I just spotted. Isn't that a beauty in there? Such a pale creamy flesh. Gorgeous. I've no idea how it's going to taste, but I'm not half looking forward to tasting it. Yum, yum, yum. Right, let's pop a couple more out and then I'll show you the soil. Remember the other day when I was doing the tomatoes, I was talking about scent memory. I also think it's true of sound memory. And as I'm doing these, oh, that's another piggy. As I'm doing these, I can hear little crickets chirping away. And the sound of crickets always makes me think of holidays in Greece. Isn't that gorgeous? Whoa, what a beauty. I think I've done all right this year with the onions. Really moist down there, it's amazing. The other great thing about this mulch is, oh, there's a little one. Speaking of, I think I've pulled out 5 weeds. It's amazing. Oh, that one. Rotten. That's not bad. Out of this lot so far. So once they're all up and I've inspected them to make sure they are good for drying and storing, I will... God, this is a huge one. I can't get over the size of some of them this year. Yeah, once I've inspected them to make sure they are worthy of drying and storing, I'll have a little count up. And once I've counted, I can work out, divide my... Oh, another one, that's a dodgy one. I can then work out, divide how many I've got by 52, which will give me how many I have got to live on per week for the next year. Oh, I've missed that row on the other side. Oh, I'll come round to do those in a minute. But I think so far, so good. Morning, Poppy. Hello, sweetheart. Are you hot already? Come on, let's go have a cuddle. Just thought I'd try and show. Can you see? Oops, there and there. Ooh, those butterflies. Oh, isn't that a lovely sight? Open your wings for us. Come on, flash your brightly coloured knickers at us. Gorgeous. And of course, there's tons of bees in there too. Yes, this has worked out absolutely brilliantly for all the insects. Love it, love it, love it. bliss. Bliss, bliss, bliss. Of course, this time of year means hours and hours and hours spent watering. I love to water first thing in the morning before there's anyone around. It's so beautiful. I love to water late in the evening when so many other plot holders are around, because then I can have a chat. I love the quietness that descends at this time of year. Of course, I always have the cats for company. That's a kind of given. But what I love as we're going into the height of summer, and we're even starting to think about autumn, is that beautiful soundtrack that accompanies us during every day in the garden. The bees. Oh, they were magnificent this year. I think largely because of the development of the herb bed. I'm so happy for that. It was an absolute pleasure to share the garden with them, as it has been to share it with you. Now, that's enough for today. In part 3, we're going to go into the autumn and we're going to do some serious harvesting. But for now, cheerio from me.